It's a brand new week, but dear listeners, we didn't pick a movie to watch this week. So what we're going to have to do is decide on something right here, right now. What do we want to cover this week? Dallas, we've been doing a lot of old movies lately. We've been doing the 80s, we've been doing the 90s, we've done the 40s. Let's do something recent. I'm talking 2025, 2026, 2025
Okay.
at the oldest, okay? And America sucks right now, so fuck America. Let's do Europe or Canada. Canada's pretty cool still, so maybe Canada, maybe Europe. Maybe a co-production. Maybe
All right.
a co-production between Norway, France, Germany, Denmark, and Sweden in that order. We've been covering, we've been doing really heavy movies lately as well. So like Listers and MacGruber. So enough with the drama. Let's aim for some lighthearted themes this week, like childhood abandonment, war crimes, maybe torture, suicide, dysfunctional parent-child relationships, and the tension between artistic expression and the real human connection. So essentially a rom-com, but without the rom or the com. I don't know. What are you thinking? Any ideas?
You're goddamn right. I got some ideas, Dave. I may just have one for you. Breezy at under 2.5 hours. Let me read you the synopsis first, and then I'll let you decide. Sisters Nora, played by Renate Reinsve, and Agnes, played by Inga It's daughter Lilius. I'm fucking that up, and it's fantastic. Leave it in the comments, people. Reunite with their estranged father, the charismatic Gustav, played by Stellan Skarsgård, a once renowned director who offers stage actress Nora a role in what he hopes will be his comeback film. When Nora turns it down, she soon discovers that he has given her part to an eager young Hollywood star played by Elle Fanning. Suddenly, the two sisters must navigate their complicated relationship with their father and deal with an American star dropped right into the middle of their complex family dynamics. How about that?
I don't know. I did kind of want war crimes and suicide.
Don't worry. There's a little bit.
Oh, well,
This one
let's do it.
delivers on both counts. Absolutely.
All right. What's the movie?
All right. So today, people, we are talking about 2025 Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier, with co-writing credit also going to Eskil Vogt and Trier himself. But right now, let's give the people what they deserve, Dave, and roll that intro. Are you not entertained?
Yes, sir! We'll have a real good time!
He's Dave, and I'm Dallas, and this is Vintertainment. We have opinions on just about everything. Sometimes those opinions are spot on. Sometimes they go down easier with a glass of wine. This is Vintertainment, the wine and entertainment pairing podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Vintertainment. This is, of course, the podcast where we pair wine with entertainment. It is as simple as that. And before we get to today's film, which we watched at 30 times speed, just while that intro was playing. We swear we got the full effect at that speed. We're pros at this. No need to belabor experiencing things in normal time. Learn to time management, max losers. So before we get to our deep and intelligent thoughts on a film we watched at 30x speed, we first have to do our wine trivia question of the week.
Woo. All right. Are you ready, Davikins? Are you ready? It is my turn yet
So
again
ready.
to test you. All right. The question is, in 1945, after the German occupation left Norway, there were about 400,000 liters of Bordeaux wine left behind.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, right? That's a lot. The Vin Monopolet started selling it using a not unfamiliar nicknaming logic, not dissimilar to that of $2 Chuck found at Trader Joe's. What was the nickname used to refer to these bottles of Bordeaux? Is it A, Femfatna, B, Siv Skaruti, C, Sexkrana, or D, Ata Alex? Once again, we are looking for the nickname for these bottles, 400,000 bottles, 400,000 liters, of Bordeaux left behind after the German occupation in Norway. A, Femfatna, B, Siv Skaruti, C, Sexkrona, D, Ata Alex.
All right. Well, first off, can I just say I love when you wrote that question, you're like, not unfamiliar, not dissimilar to. It's like similar to.
No, buddy.
My brain had to like work that out. It's like, wait,
exactly.
not blah, 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 blah. It's so funny. I write that way too, though, so often. Like the way I naturally, like sentences naturally come out of me is always in this like twisted, like turn over turn, and there's such a simpler, more straightforward way to say it.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh God, what
it's
am I?
It's always less interesting when it's simpler, though.
Yeah, but I'm like, what am I, some patriarch from the 18th century? Like, fuck a duck. Like, just say it straightforwardly. Anyway.
All right, Femfatna, Siv Skaruti, Sexkrona, Ata Alex.
All right. Well, I have no effing idea. But I do know kroner is the Norwegian money. Norwegian, what word am I looking for? Currency. The Norwegian currency. But Ate Alex, I like Ate Alex as a name. I want it to be Ate Alex just because I'm like, that rings. That like just slips off the tongue. At least in my very American tongue is like Ate Alex. But I don't know what Ate is. And but it could be like $2 Chuck, where you've got the Chuck part in there. But Sex Kroner could be like, that sounds like a 6 or a 7. Kroner, I have no idea what Femfatner or Siv Skaruti is or could be. So just because Kroner is the one and only thing that I recognize on this list, let's go for C, Sex Kroner.
All right, I'm going to give the audience a minute to go ahead and tell Dave he is in. Actually, no, he's right. The answer is C, Sex Kroner. Just to go through the choices here. Number 1, sex, meaning 6, of course, and Kroner being the denomination. The bottles were basically 6 kroner per bottle. So Femfatner is basically Fem for 5. Fatner is just a nickname. Siv is Skaruti, Siv being 7, Skaruti being a nickname, 8 being Ata, and Alex being a nickname. So just combinations of names and numbers, but the correct answer is Sex Kroner. By the way, the Vin Monopole is Norway's government-controlled sale of wine, actually. It's termed the wine monopoly, which governs the sale of any alcohol over 4.75% ABV, all done for the sake of the people, as Norway has historically had a curious relationship with alcohol over indulgence.
We would have no idea what that's like, or our government having a weird relationship to alcohol. Americans, we are so normal.
That's right. Always.
All right. Well, that has been our wine trivia question of the week. And now it's time to get to our movie, which is, we haven't actually named the movie yet. So folks, hopefully you read the title of this podcast, or you never know, maybe some algorithm was like, hey, this is the next thing you're listening to. And you were like, oh, okay, I'll see where this goes. So we are talking about 2025's Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier, or that's how he pronounces his name in an interview recently, where I'm so used to Joaquin Phoenix that I'm always like, in my head, it's always been Joachim Trier, but it is Joachim Trier. So, okay, Joachim. So directed by Joachim Trier and his second partnering with actress Renate Reinsve after The Worst Person in the World in 2021, which is a very good movie. I've seen that one as well. So that one is awesome. This one, Sentimental Value, was nominated for 9 Oscars, including Best International Feature Film, Original Screenplay, Film Editing, Best Supporting Actor for Stellan Skarsgård, Best Supporting Actress for Elle Fanning, Best Supporting Actress again for Inga Ibsdottir-Lillaas, and Best Lead Actress for Renate Reinsve. Best Director for Joachim. Jeez, I always want to go back to Joachim. Joachim Trier.
Y-O-K-M.
Yes, Joachim Trier and Best Picture. Whew.
Yeah.
But of all of these, because it's the Oscars and they're all a bunch of dirty foreigners in this film, it only won for Best International Feature Film. Though by doing so, it did become the first Norwegian film to ever win that category. But let's start at the beginning, folks. A very good place to start. Joachim Trier and regular co-writer Eskil Vogt hit the scenes with Reprise, a 2007 film that took them 5 years to write. They followed that with Oslo, August 31st. That is the full name of the film, Oslo, August 31st in 2011. The second of what would become Trier's Oslo trilogy, the first being Reprise, the second being Oslo, August 31st. Then his stab at a film with a Hollywood cast in Louder Than Bombs in 2015, a stab at a horror movie with Thelma in 2017, and then he concluded the Oslo trilogy with The Worst Person in the World in 2021. Now, the Oslo trilogy are all set in Oslo and features actor Anders Danielsen. And do you pronounce his last name Lie or Lee, or do you know?
Nope, no clue. Say both.
Nope. Great, Lie. Anders, I like someone whose last name is Lie. So we're going with Anders Danielsen Lie in a leading role in all of these films. And they tend to revolve around a theme of social exclusion. Now, Trier's Thelma was also set in Oslo and also had a similar core theme, but does not have Lie, if I'm pronouncing that right, in the cast, or Lee in the cast, and therefore is not considered a part of that trilogy. Now, riding high off the conclusion of his Oslo trilogy, Trier found himself with a blank slate for what he was going to tackle next. When asked about the inspiration for Sentimental Value, Trier stated, quote, "The trigger for the story was when my mother put my grandparents' house up for sale. I realized all of the 20th century had happened in that house. My grandfather was a resistance fighter who was tortured and barely survived, then became a filmmaker and even went to Cannes in 1960. I think filmmaking was his way of coping with that trauma. It got me and co-writer Eskil Vogt thinking about broader things like how the war affected families. Does it take 3 generations to get rid of that?" Unquote. The story of Sentimental Value centers around a charismatic director-father, Stellan Skarsgård, who returns to the lives of his estranged daughters and the home that's been in the family for generations, just as he prepares to mount a new feature film. Not unlike Skarsgård's character in the film, Trier himself has been collaborating with many of the same artisans and craft persons for years. The team for Sentimental Value would go on to include frequent collaborators, casting director including casting director Ingvild Kolset Haga, cinematographer Kasper Tuxen, production designer Jørgen Strangeby, I like that one too, Strangeby Larsen, and editor Olivier Bouge-Coute, maybe. C-O-U-T-T-E. Beats me, guys. Olivier Bouge-Coute. Tuxen had previously collaborated with Trier on The Worst Person in the World. Now, according to Kodak.com, Tuxen says, quote, Joachim and I absorbed The Age of Innocence, Martin Scorsese's 1993 movie, for its camera movement and depictions of the passage of time, plus Opening Night, the John Cassavetes movie from 1977, for its visualization of an actress struggling with a nervous breakdown. We also considered films by Woody Allen, specifically those shot by D.P. Gordon Willis, as inspirations for the moods in different scenes. Casting director Ingvild? God, I always forget. You just said it.
I know, I think it's Ingvild,
okay.
Yeah.
Man, 30 seconds later, I'm so bad with names. I'm so bad with names. Casting director Ingvild Kolset Haga is reported to have spent a year casting due to an extensive process of script engagement for this film, Sentimental Value. Quote, out of all my collaborators, she's sometimes the one who asks the most difficult questions because she is an actor herself, unquote. That is what Trier says. Production designer Jørgen Strangeby Larsen revealed that he and Trier had previously shot at the very same house that centers Sentimental Value. Quote, it turned out to be the house where we also shot Oslo, August 31st, 14 years prior. so I knew it very well, unquote. Trier had scouted dozens of houses before arriving at this one, which when he arrived, he didn't actually seek it out. He arrived and he recognized it and it was just one of the houses they were gonna scout. He recognized it and realized he'd been there before, and instantly began seeing how the scenes from the script could be shot there. Likely, the familiarity, the memories spurred this, which are poetically the very themes of the movie itself, having this type of history and memories with a home. They also built a studio replica of the house to be able to dress it in different eras throughout history. The cast was able to rehearse in the house to fully understand and familiarize themselves to the space. And the fact that the house was actually lived in, it was actually someone's house. They had to rent it from that person. That helped this feeling to be natural for everyone. But it is editor Olivier Bouge-Coutet, who is Trier's longest collaborator. We're going to try every version, and then one of them might be right. You know, we're just going to keep going with that. Trier's longest collaborator, as their relationship predates even their time in the National Film School in London. Trier has a special reverence for the art of editing, and often mentions that too few actors thank the editors when they are accepting awards. Amen. That is actually really true. Now, I think the reason actors do that, it's like the one part of the film that like actors really take no part in.
Right.
So it's like they understand what the cinematographer, the lighting guy, the hair and makeup people, the costume, they're like, oh, thank you. The editor, they're sort of like, they don't see what the editor does. But to be fair, it's not like they don't know that editing happens and whatnot. I just think it is out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Anyways, regarding the title, Trier says, quote, I grew up in the 90s. I come from Areni, but this time I wanted intimacy and tenderness. I've had 2 kids since the last movie, and I keep asking, what do I pass on to them? And what was passed on to me? That matters to me now. My line now is, tenderness is the new punk, unquote. Trier and Vogt knew they were on a knife's edge with this material. Quote, we were opening the faucet a bit, says Vogt. It's easy to manipulate emotions. It's easy to make people cry. That's not a measure of quality. The title Sentimental Value was our way of admitting it. These emotions have value only if they come from an honest place. So with a budget of $7.8 million, principal photography commenced in August 2024 in Oslo, shooting for 63 days until late November. Cinematographer Casper Tuxen mainly shot the production in 35mm with flashback scenes set in the 1920s and 30s shot in 16mm. All right. That's the history. I mean, this is a brand new movie, so there's not a lot of history to be had from it. But that is the history that we know that we could dredge up. Now it's time to tackle the movie itself. So, folks, this is the part of the podcast where we begin to break the film down into 3 acts, give a brief synopsis for each act, and discuss our thoughts on that segment of the movie, as well as our wine pairing thoughts as we go. What were we thinking after Act 1 or during Act 1 versus Act 2 when we finally settle on a pairing and reveal them after Act 3? Here we go.
All right. Act 1. Played by Renate Reinsve, is about to go on stage in a major theatrical production, but she suffers a panic attack to the point of trying to tear off her costume and demanding her male co-star slap her. After a lengthy and mildly traumatic delay, Nora goes on stage and gives a performance that elicits a standing ovation. We later learn that Nora and her sister Agnes, played by Inga Ibsdata Lilius, their mother, has passed away. The sisters gather with family after the funeral at their family home where the mother has still been living. Nora is single, but with a sort of boyfriend, the co-star who had to slap her, of course, though he is married to another person, while Agnes, the other sister, is married with one child, Erik. During their mother's wake, Nora shows Eddick an upstairs fireplace where they can hear the conversations from downstairs. Nora overhears the voice of her and Agnes's father, Gustav, played, of course, by Stellan Skarsgård, a noted film director who abandoned the family when the sisters were young. While Agnes has a decent relationship with Gustav, Nora retains animosity toward him for having left the family. Gustav later invites Nora to a restaurant to try and catch up. Gustav shows Nora the script that he's written for her, or specifically for his latest project, and reveals that he wants her to star in it. But she declines, suspecting he only wants her to get funding and has little care for her besides that. Later, Gustav attends a film festival where they show one of his older films. We learn that he hasn't made a new film in quite some time. His daughter, Agnes, the one who didn't grow up to become an actress, plays a pivotal role in that film as an amateur child actor, and the crowd comments on how good she is in the part. American actress Rachel Kemp, played by Elle Fanning, whose film is also screening at the festival, is moved by Gustav's movie and invites him to join her dinner party. They bond, and Gustav decides to offer her the lead role that he intended for Nora. Back at the family home, Nora and Agnes go over personal items of quote-unquote sentimental value that belong to their mother. Gustav and Rachel soon arrive, as Gustav plans to shoot his film in this house. Gustav describes the project to Rachel as being inspired by his own mother, who died in the house by suicide. A flashback shows Gustav's mother joining the resistance against the Nazis, after which she is imprisoned and tortured as a result. When Gustav was 7 years old, she hung herself. We briefly see Gustav's life growing up in the house, emotionally isolated from the adults, before he himself marries and becomes a father to Nora and Agnes. All right, Act 1, discussion, thoughts.
So thoughts on Act 1, a lot of dysfunction in this family, even at this beginning, but, very little overt drama. We're just kind of going back to what they were saying about manipulating emotions, and they didn't want to do that. They wanted all the emotion to come from an honest place. And so this movie, outside of there's I think our main girl, Nora, she is the most quote unquote maybe eccentric character of the bunch. She has the stage fright. She's got to get slapped by her co-star who she's dating, even though he's married. Like, she plainly has the most obvious, visible issues that she's dealing with, and everyone else has got issues, but they're much more subtext and under the surface, and she's letting a lot more hang out than others. But for the most part, this movie, no histrionics, not a lot of overt drama. I think all these characters, the two daughters and then the father, they have a past that's just like full of tripwires. The quote unquote sentimental value is being avoided between all of them, so that they can avoid the feelings of abandonment and hurt that come along with it because he left them. We're going to get a little more into that in Act 2 and 3 here in just a moment. But this then makes the past something for them purely negative because they're just avoiding it, right? Or purely almost like fictional, like a story that happened, but not something that exists because they're not dealing with it in the present. And so it needs to be absorbed into the present for these folks to actually like have true blue relationships with each other. So, Act 1, right away, you realize this is about generational trauma passed down from the parent to child, that father-to-daughter relationship. That is like kind of the meat of everything. But the energy here is controlled and studied. So it's gentle, only occasionally electric in small moments, and never too much even then. So I was, for me, I was already thinking wine-wise, like obviously something with family roots, something with a family dynamic with the winemakers, ideally a father-daughter team of some kind if possible. I don't know how dysfunctional that father-daughter team could possibly be if the winery was functional. So maybe it's actually a functional father-daughter team, but maybe something where there's a father-daughter dynamic involved. And a wine that would, like, so far just watching this, I'm like, okay, complex but gentle. Like, this is such you're just watching the movie. You're just taking it in. So contemplative, but in terms of that complexity, but nothing that's just like hitting you hard in any way, because this is just like, watch these people just do their thing and see what happens. So what about you? What's your take on Act One?
I like that. Yeah, I will say the opening sequences for this film are some of the best filmmaking I've actually enjoyed in a while. It's so simple. There's a darkness you find to a lot of the sort of Nordic stuff. It's sort of just simmering. It's not a theme they're trying to play up, but it's the architecture. It's kind of just built into the architecture. And you see it in these opening scenes when she's on stage. That the sequence when she has to be slapped and she's having this panic attack, and the only thing and you don't really know where that's going, right? So when we walk into this film and we're onboarded into this film, we just think she's about to run out of this fucking theater and leave this performance high and dry. But we quickly learn that, oh, okay, this might be just part of her process, right? And it's kind of a reference for the rest of the film, honestly, because she is so potent and so powerful, but also so understated. And you can tell the emotions in this family are so potent and so powerful, but they are muted. And like you said, it's kind of like a mythos in the background, that they never address, again, part of the architecture. No one ever looks at it. The house is burning, but we've got flowers on the table and the television.
And to be fair, that is families in general,
Absolutely.
Right? Because family, it just goes back. You've got generation after generation. Sometimes the kids don't really know the backstory, and kind of that's true for this family as well. Is like they know their dad and they know their mom, but you go back to the grandparents and they know only some.
That's right.
And especially the dark, like they know their grandmother committed suicide, but if you really want to get into the why of the suicide and what part of the grandmother's life led to that, that's not something they've delved into. No one threw it on them, which is, I think, probably a good thing. Like no one's like, here, carry this load, so they hold that back from them, but then it also keeps them a little bit at arm's length to like, what is this family? Who is this dad who is carrying the weight, who was saddled with the weight of that suicide, of his own, of his mother committing suicide, and for reasons he understands, but his kids do not.
No clue. There's there's that dissonance. There's that degree of separation. You can see it, like you said, in every family. So wine-wise, I like this idea of the top layer being like this film is. It's very easy to watch. It's very easy to watch. It's very easy to sort of ingest and take in. You just sit and this story just sort of plays out, and there's so much dynamic. If you are really paying attention, there's so much dynamic. That scene where she has to get slapped is the funniest shit I have seen in such a long time, but it's beneath this layer.
Have you
darkness.
Seen The Worst Person in the World? Have you ever seen that movie?
I started watching it and did not finish. And this film made me want to go back and finish it.
Yeah. Because I was going to say her character has a lot of similarities. She's kind of a slightly more grown-up version of that same character.
That's 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah, no, 21, buddy.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, shit, that's right. All right, go on.
We just covered the history.
I know.
Just named the years.
I'm thinking of the other one. Yeah, go ahead. Wow.
Yeah. So just from 2021, so 5 years ago from now, roughly. But just in terms, I think the character in this one is meant to be a bit more approaching middle-ish life rather than like, young to mid 20s. It's sort of like, well, now you're definitely in your 30s and maybe even upper 30s. And like, she's still drifting a bit and trying to find it. But in a similar way, where Worst Person in the World, I think the point of that movie was kind of like how we're all the worst person in the world in our 20s because we're so navel gazing and we're so in our own heads. And we're testing the limits of everything while we can and can bounce back from it. But then we're the collateral damage of other people isn't something we care that much about or even really attuned to. So we're all kind of that worst person. And then by your 30s, you're like, okay, what am I doing with my life?
What's the direction?
And you can really see this thematically in many ways. Is like, yeah, this is a continuation of that character into this part of life, but now we're getting into I forget, it's been a while since I've seen Worst Person in the World, so I forget what that character's story was specifically, so I'm not sure if you can tit for tat say you can treat this like a sequel. Probably not. But in terms of, but now we're delving into like, okay, what makes all these people tick at this point? Yeah,
got it. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe an interesting white, which has some. I think this film is probably going to need something with a bit more color, so to speak, a bit more sort of dynamic in terms of flavor and notes and things like that, because it is kind of austere and sort of simmering beneath the top layer. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But yeah.
All right, onward. Act 2. Gustav and Rachel start to promote the film early on. During a press interview, one reporter questions Rachel about the lukewarm reception to her last film, which clearly makes her uncomfortable. Gustav interjects and insults the reporter while praising Rachel as the best talent of her generation before kicking the reporter out. Meanwhile, Nora is forced to see Gustav again at Eric's birthday party, where he gifts his grandson Irreversible and The Piano Teacher, movies that Nora knows, and movies we all know, are inappropriate. The party goes well until Nora later calls Gustav out for his abandonment of them. Later at night, Gustav gets drunk and tries to leave a message for Nora, explaining himself to the best of his ability. The message time limit on that message, though, cuts him off, and we never actually see if Nora listens to the message or what she thinks of it, if she ever did. Agnes later goes to the library to look up information on their grandmother, the one who committed suicide in the house. She becomes emotional as she reads recollections of the grandmother being tortured for anti-Nazi propaganda. Meanwhile, Rachel tries to get into character for the role, though she feels she may be inauthentic since she will be speaking English while all the other actors will speak in Swedish. Very Italian of them, very like Italian giallo. Everyone just speak their own. We're going to dub over everything anyways, except in this case, they're not even going to dub over it, I don't think. She tries to learn to speak with a Scandinavian accent and also dyes and cuts her hair to more resemble Nora. There's kind of a doppelganger thriller buried in this movie there somewhere,
Really is.
Yeah. But not this movie. That's not this movie. Anyways, meanwhile, Gustav approaches Agnes to try and get her son Eric into the film for the role of Rachel's son. Agnes asks Gustav if he will attend Nora's upcoming show, and he says sure, he will. Rachel later visits Nora at the theater, where her show is going to play. They discuss Gustav and the project, and Rachel admits her insecurities and knows the role was meant for Nora. But Nora insists that she and Gustav cannot work together because they cannot communicate. End of Act 2. All right. Any new thoughts on this one? Dallas, kick us off here.
I just like the, that generational trauma thing. Really, it's not heavy-handed by any stretch of the imagination. It's clear, but it's not heavy-handed. I like that, we start to get in touch with that original trauma of the mom's suicide, of course. And then we're starting to draw sort of, tethers to what's happening in the future. We begin to learn some more about Nora's situation and how it relates back to grandma and her difficulty.
And there's a scene, right? And we see that there's a scene in Act 2. This wasn't in our little synopsis, but in one of the scenes that Rachel's trying to prepare for is the fact that she's going to attempt to suicide like the mother, like the grandmother. And at one point she talks to Gustav about that. And he says straight up, he's like, oh, this isn't about my mother.
It's not about my mother.
And you're like, well, and you said, even me as a viewer, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, who else could it be about?
And I'm going to push back on that one second, just as a person who spends a lot of time sort of this world building and writing stuff. It's like, having done that myself, I totally understand the response. Because
no, I understand it, but
go ahead.
But in terms of like him it feels like such a denial on the character's part. is my point.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think that's intentional because as a person, I don't want to get into digging.
No,
into
I wasn't saying it
story.
wasn't intentional. I was, my confusion was with the characters. Like, I was like, what are you fucking talking about, you character, not the scriptwriter?
Ah, got it. Okay, gotcha.
Right. I'm
Okay. All
right. So
with you now.
me as a viewer, I wasn't questioning the movie. I was just saying, like,
Right,
come on, man. Like,
Right.
like who? Even though you're talking to this American actress who now she does kind of know your family. You basically told her your
She's
mom
in the
committed
house.
suicide. Right. And she's like, oh, so this is like, what about, should I get more information about your mother? And he's like, oh, this isn't about my mother. And even to the Rachel character, it's sort of like, well, why else would you write this scene? Like, it's one of those things that was such an interesting, and it sort of, we leave it at that. Like, no one really pushes back on him for it, but it was such an interesting moment where he just flatly is like, this isn't about my mother, and walks away. And not in a mean way. He's not angry. He's not like, and end of discussion. Like, he's just like, oh, this isn't about my mother. And then he just like casually walks away, and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
So
it's more denial of the backstory, of the mythos, of the reality. It's like, push that to the back. It's not important.
And it's not affecting me to where I write a scene about my mother, right? It's like, there's some, it's like, but why? Of course you're influenced by the suicide of your mother. It is one of those interesting things. We're going to get a little more into, there's one more layer to this we're going to get into in Act 3. But even with that extra layer, it still doesn't entirely answer this moment in Act 2, which is like why he just flatly denies anything that has anything to do with the mother. Yeah. So, for me, this was a really interesting, I really liked, I think Act 2, the Nora-Rachel dynamic that really happened here, where he's replacing Nora with Elle Fanning. This has strong similarities. Do you remember Clouds of Sils Maria? Did you watch that for our Movies Within Movies
episode?
Right? Juliette Binoche. Yeah. So 2014, Olivier Assayas. Juliette Binoche plays an aging actress with her, and her PA / handler is played by Kristen Stewart. Chloe Grace Moretz plays the younger actress, who is cast to play a role that Binoche played in her youth, the character that Binoche is played in her youth, and now Binoche is cast to play the older part, and here comes this younger actress having to play the role that she sort of started back in the day. And there's this fascinating thing that all European film people seem to do that Americans don't, which is they talk about their character in the third person. Which is like, Nora is someone who yada yada yada. I was even watching interviews for this movie, and like, Renate Reinsve was like, oh, and Nora is she does this, and there's something issue with Nora, and like keeps naming her by third person. And it's so funny because Americans just talk about movies like, oh yeah, my character, my character, like, kind of blah blah blah.
They don't,
Right. And Europeans are always like, I'm giving my character's name, like she's a person, it's like Nora is this and that. And I feel like Americans are like, you don't know the name of my character. I'm not going to fucking throw the name at you. Like, come on. But it's so much more. Right. Well, sort of. And then in Clouds of Sils Maria, they do the same thing. And in this movie, like when they talk about characters and when they're talking about the script, everything, they talk a lot about these things, which I feel like is not something that Americans do nearly as much. I'm sure we do it up to a point, but
anymore.
Not to the not to this level where it's just like exploring, all talking about it before then finally arriving and shooting. But there were I saw a lot of Clouds of Sils Maria in this dynamic between Rachel and Nora and Stellan Skarsgård and Gustav. And I really appreciated that, they talk about their characters in the movie. So Nora talking about whatever she's playing in the play, and Elle Fanning's character talking about the character she's about to play for Gustav, and whatnot. And they do it almost to this parody level of how actual Europeans do in actual interviews and whatnot of that thing. And yet by doing so, they almost start to talk about themselves in those moments. Like they talk about the character, but then they always you get through those conversations. It's sort of without addressing it directly, without a character just coming out and saying like, I feel this way and I am this, or my past is this. They just relate things in their own life with the character or the things that don't match with the character. And that's almost the way you get to know these characters is through a lot of that type of dialogue.
It's an inside out sort of approach to character, which you find a lot in, I don't want to say European acting, but yeah, it's like an inside out approach.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, yes, we did do a 2-part episode where we did movies within movies, and we covered Clouds of Sils Marius and that, and the movie there. We could do this movie now that we
Actually,
know.
yeah.
We'll get to Act 3 here in just a moment. But we could have added that, but we did it with a wonderful guest, Decarceration. You can find him on Substack, but he is someone that was a guest of the American prison system for a decade, and now that he's out, he reviews all movies that he missed while he was locked away. That's right. Advocates for decarceration, or at least a more just criminal justice system, one way or the other. And yes, and we did a really loopy fake movies within movies paired with fake drinks within movies. So you should definitely go check those episodes out. But anyway, yeah, Act 2, nothing really changed. I still wanted something with a family dynamic, and it was still like complex but gentle. Like this is all subtle, layered, complex. But nothing too punchy, nothing too extreme. Something gentle and subtle.
I'm picking up on that watchability and that drinkability. This film is so watchable. There was no point when I wanted to check out, or it was just you sit for the ride, and every scene, it stimulates you just enough to want to get to the next scene, and that is I hate to say it, it's a rare quality in film these days, where it's clearly, A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, with very interesting sort of catalyst in between. And I'm looking for a wine, I think, that is drinkable in that same way, where it just stimulates you enough to keep you going and drinking and drinking. All right. Act 3.
Quick spoiler alert for everyone listening. There isn't really a plot twist per se at the end of this movie, but the way this movie ends, you want to go into it quote unquote spoiler free for it to have the impact that it's supposed to have. I think knowing about it in advance will probably lessen that impact. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, watch it first, come back and listen to the end of this for Act 3, or skip ahead to our wine reveal chapters and skip the whole Act 3 chapter, because we're going to talk about the ending, because it's powerful and it's wonderful. But that's your spoiler alert. That's your spoiler warning. If you don't listen to it, that's on you. Here we go.
So Agnes attends Nora's show that night, waiting for Gustav to show up, but he never does. Both sisters are visibly disappointed, even though Nora tries to hide it from Agnes. Rachel later visits Gustav at home to tell him that she feels she is not right for the project and wishes to drop out, but she will stay on if it's what Gustav really wants. He says he does, but that he understands how much she no longer wishes to see this through, and he gives her a hug before sending her home. She is released from the movie. Gustav visits Agnes with the script for his film. She tells him that she does not want Eric to be in his film the way she had been when she was a child. She also makes it clear her own frustrations with him abandoning the family, that they had been so close while doing the film together, and then he simply left, never looking back. Gustav leaves the script with Agnes, who reluctantly looks it over before going to bed. Agnes visits Nora at home to check on her. She brings Gustav's script, which Agnes says she thinks is very beautiful, and reinforces the idea that the script was written both for and about Nora. While she is reluctant to read it, Agnes convinces her to read a specific monologue, one that Rachel earlier practiced. Nora is moved to tears while reading it. They discuss the rest of the script, specifically the suicide scene and how Gustav couldn't have known that Nora actually attempted suicide herself once in the past. Agnes believes he mixed in aspects of Karin's life, but the connection hits home for Nora. Nora wonders out loud how Agnes grew up so normal while she turned out so fucked up. And Agnes states, simply, that Nora was always there for her. Nora had no one to be there for her, but Agnes had Nora. The sisters embrace. Gustav later collapses at home after another drunken evening. The sisters visit him in the hospital and laugh as they see him flirting with a nurse. We then cut to a scene with Nora walking through the house and entering the room where her grandmother committed suicide many years ago. There's a chair set up as though Nora is contemplating it herself. Suddenly, Eric, Agnes's son, calls for Nora, and they have a brief moment together. Nora shoos him to go home, but Eric is reluctant. He can tell something isn't right. Nora reassures him and insists he has to go. So he does. Alone, Nora walks back to the room. She stares at the chair, pensive, deep in thought. Gustav calls cut, and we realize this is a scene from his new movie, which Nora is now starring in, and Eric also. After wrapping up the scene, Nora and Gustav glance at each other across the set and tentatively smile at one another. Perhaps something is healing with this collaboration. Perhaps. The end.
Are you just going to sit there in silence until I start talking? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Fair enough. So yeah, it's the end. I mean, brilliant ending for one
Right.
thing.
Right.
When that ending starts, you are a little like, what? Why? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Kind of a thing. And it does it in such a way that like this is a very filmic thing that happens often where it's like, you know, plainly this is a movie shoot and it's going to be revealed to be a movie shoot. And
Right.
I would say at my age and experience with watching movies these days, I can spot it 9 out of 10 times, maybe 8 out of 10 times, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of an ego boost and say 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
It seems to happen all the time. Now it starts and I'm like, oh, come on, guys, this is a film shoot. It's funny, though, twice recently we did To Be or Not to Be from 1942, and that opening was something I didn't see coming either. And then this one, the closing, I didn't see it coming. It was a sudden jump where suddenly you're like, why are we in this scene? Why is this so heavy? Why is Nora doing that? Like, you're just sort of like, but because the movie is so weirdly drama-free, and even the shooting of this scene is so weirdly, the gravitas is all implied by the silences and just because you see what's happening and no one's acting big, no one's making broad statements, it's just happening. And that's where the drama comes from. And so you still don't see it. You almost would expect a scene about a film being filmed for a movie, like suddenly it's going to be a little more elevated because now everyone's acting, right? You know, kind of a thing. And here they just shoot it like the rest of the movie, and I didn't see it coming. You know, I'm gonna re-add the spoiler alert at the beginning of this synopsis. I'll re-record a quick little line because because I just realized this is a pretty big spoiler ending that I'm like, make sure to watch the movie unless you really want to hear about this beforehand. But yeah, that it's a brilliant ending. It does give this a pretty perfect exit, a perfect bow out.
Yeah.
Because it's like you see that something is happening. You know, there's no miracles. There's no like everything's fixed. Everyone's happy with each other. But it is that thing where it's like, they're trying in the ways they know how to, the ways that have already been established. Him through his work, you know, and like trying to get them to like be a part of that work because he's like, I don't know how to communicate with anyone outside of this. This is all I got. This is all I got, you know? So you can be a part of this and we'll probably be pretty close then. There's a strong chance that after this movie is done, he still isn't a big part of their lives, just like he was the last time when Agnes was a child actor and then he just like fucked off. You don't know. but it's still, for the most part, a happy ending as everyone is starting to, and by doing the play too, Agnes and Nora, of course, are getting deeper into what happened to their grandmother and getting deeper into their father's life and backstory. So it's like everyone's starting to understand each other just by dint of by doing this together. It's the only way for that to happen. So, I wanted a wine with a father-daughter dynamic, though maybe one, with that functional versus dysfunctional dynamic, and a wine that matched this movie's emotional complexity, but lack of gravitas, lack of elevated emotional quality. I needed to match its more grounded, everyday, quiet, gentle approach to peering into the depth of difficult interpersonal relationships. So I chose Zulal Winery's Areni from Vayots, Dzur, Armenia. So Areni, that is Areni, but you pronounce it more with kind of that open A sound with that E, so it's Areni, is Armenia's flagship red variety. It reflects the Zulal Winery's mission to showcase indigenous grapes with clarity, purity, and a deep respect for terroir, according to them, of course. The grapes come from small family-owned vineyards in the Vayots Dzur that are 50 to 70 years old. This is a very high elevated vineyard. It's 1,400 to 1,500 meters above sea level. Wow. And completely ungrafted vines, which means pre-phylloxera. For those who aren't really wine educated, phylloxera, it was a root louse, a bit of a pest that we brought over from America we introduced to Europe. The British introduced it to Europe by trading with us.
It's always the Brits.
Ships came over to them. Always Brits. Never us. It's always the Brits. They came over to America and accidentally transported that and introduced it to the ecosystem in Europe. And to this day, there is no cure for phylloxera. So it devastated the vineyards in Europe, destroyed about 80% of the vineyards at the time. This was the 1800s. And to this day, we've never discovered a way to kill phylloxera without also killing the vine. So there is no cure to the disease. So what we did find a solution, and the solution was that the reason phylloxera doesn't affect American vines is because they evolved together in North America. And so our vines they evolved with natural resistance to phylloxera and aren't affected by the pest. So vines are really cool because you can take the roots and it's a root louse, so it only really goes after the roots. So we took American roots, took them over to Europe, planted them in the ground, and you can do a thing called grafting, where you just jam the top part into the lower part. And the top part is still the European vine, and the lower part is the American rootstock, and the vines will merge into a new vine together and still more or less grow what they were growing before on the top. Now, a lot of people swear that it was different when the roots were pure European. Like, some people are very purist about it over there. And so they're like, ungrafted vines are a bit of a treasure, where it's like, these are the same vines. These are the same rootstocks and the same variety of vine, like untouched, unblemished, ungrafted, from hundreds, thousands of years ago for Europe. So that heritage is unbroken if it's ungrafted. And mostly these are places that are very high up in elevation that phylloxera was not able to get to. So there are some places in Portugal, there are some places in Armenia. Everywhere you go, there are some very high elevation pre-phylloxera, non-grafted European vines that still exist, but they're relatively rare to find. Anyways, these are pre-phylloxera ungrafted. Areni is often compared to Pinot Noir, and it does share similar like body structure and fundamental flavor profile. You've got the red fruit, herbaceousness, good acidity, noticeable but not hefty tannins. It's complex, it's layered, it's contemplative, but not harsh and not at all difficult to drink. Now, the winery Zulal was founded by Amy Kushgarian, daughter to Vahe Kushgarian, who spearheaded the modern wine movement in Armenia. Amy grew up in Tuscany, surrounded by her family's wine business. Vahe originally was in Tuscany as well, and then came back to Armenia and started to spearhead kind of the modern Armenian wine movement. She went on to study economic development and social entrepreneurship in college because her interest was bringing Armenia's economy into the modern world. She really wanted, she's like, we can be richer and more involved in kind of the world economy and on the world stage than we currently are. We can have a better life. And she wanted to develop the economy in Armenia from what it used to be. Then her father, Vahe, invited her to work the harvest at his winery Kush in 2015. That was his Armenian winery. And she said, quote, "I never thought I would follow in my father's footsteps. But when I came for harvest, I think a lot of things hit me at once. I'm a diaspora and Armenian, so there is this broad notion of Armenians having this emotional draw towards rebuilding our nation post-Soviet Union. Secondly, was the potential and the opportunity to be a part of rebuilding a wine industry. And we're rebuilding it. We're not building it from scratch. We have a lot of ancient history. We have history during the Soviet time. So being part of something that was being rebuilt, I think, was really exciting. It was a challenge," unquote. So Amy later founded Zulal as her own winery, separate from her father's, dedicated to small batch expressions of Armenia's rare and indigenous grape varieties. And she served as Rydell's, if I'm pronouncing that winery right. I never know how to pronounce that winery, but Rydell's ambassador to Armenia as well. And she now holds an MBA in wine and spirits from the Burgundy School of Business, where she deepened her understanding of regional identity and terroir. She has worked with lesser known native grapes such as, not going to pronounce any of these right, Chelar, Tozat, and Gerendmak, or Dmyk, I don't know. Exploring their potential, DMAK, exploring their potential while staying rooted in Armenia's heritage. She is featured, by the way, in A Cup of Salvation, which is Psalm 4 documentary, a Psalm TV documentary long-listed for the Academy Awards, which follows her and her father's efforts to make wine in both Armenia and the first Iranian wine in over 40 years, which I announced a little while ago. Last year, I had the chance to get one of the bottles. They made about 1,200 cases of this wine, and that's it. And then, of course, they had to smuggle grapes out of Iran. And now they could do it once. They can't do it again because then the Iranian government caught on to what they did.
Right.
And it's going to be much harder and much more dangerous to do. So they made one wine that was the one with an indigenous grape that was planted and grown in Iran, and they made it, and I got to taste that bottle last year, and it was really nice. It was really cool to be a part of that whole thing. But go watch that documentary. It's a really cool story of how they made that wine happen and smuggled the grapes out and whatnot. But she was interested in economic development, and then she transformed that into the economic development of the wine world in Armenia. So father-daughter relationship, Areni, which is complex yet gentle. It's so easy to drink. It's complex. You can think about it. You can sit there and just like sip it, and never take your mind off it. But you can also just drink it. It doesn't hit you hard in any way, shape, or form. It's a wonderful wine. So Zulal, Zulal, Areni, Areni. There will be a link down below so you can do a quick AI-free Google search to see if you can find it. All right, Dallas, what do you got?
All right. Sweet. First, I want to give a shout out to the moviespoiler.com who actually supplied most of our synopsis today for this series.
I rewrote it heavily.
I know. Yeah, no, me too. Don't worry. But I really like what they did when I went looking. So I wanted to give a shout out.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted a wine that matched this sort of complemented the watchability here of this film, the ease of this film, because it is a very easy watch. Even though there's some heavy matter here, it's really easy to just sit and enjoy the show and look at the dark architecture, that mythos in the background, and enjoy the sort of moments of sort of subdued levity, I guess is the only way to describe it. But I also wanted something to contrast with this sort of gloomy and austere style. So I had to pull whatever wine I chose had to pull double duty. So it had to be something that was both pleasant and an easy drink, but also something that kind of implored me to continue drinking. And maybe with, like I said earlier, I wanted something maybe a little brighter, a little colorful, a little more colorful to kind of contrast the just general darkness and doom of this film. So everybody knows, Dave knows, I do enjoy Viognier. And I settled
Makes one of us.
Yes. I settled on the 2023 K Vintners Art Den Hoed Viognier. It is a lean, sort of light to medium bodied wine that increases that salivary sensation, mouth-watering. It like this film, every frame sort of makes you curious about the next, that sort of idea of continuing to watch and continuing to drink. You want more. It's energetic in its own way, kind of spritzy, There's sort of an excitement beneath these top sort of subdued layers. It's similar to this film. It's a very clean expression of some otherwise dirty and muddy components. That's not my phrasing, by the way. I stole that from one of the reviews, but I love it.
They called it a Hoed wine, so
right. Right. It's also similar in that it is, again, effortlessly watchable, and this wine is kind of effortlessly drinkable. I mean, just glass, kind of after glass after glass. Notes wise, I'm getting some honeysuckle. There's a little apple blossom, things you would expect. There's that faint peachy thing on the nose, I guess. I would say drink it now. And like this film, fucking watch it now. Go watch this film. It is excellent filmmaking, excellent writing, excellent acting, excellent casting. Everything is just top notch about this film. So the winery, K Vintners, is located at the base of the Blue Mountains in Walla Walla, Washington. K Vintners opened its doors to the public on December 3rd, 2001. The site was originally homesteaded in 1853 with the adjacent farmhouse built in 1871. Very long lineage here. The winery grounds move through the Titus Creek flowing through the lawn and the old pioneer planted trees. I love that phrase, old pioneer planted trees. It is a little slice of heartland Americana, as it is called. Now, the winemaker, his name is Charles Smith. He loves to drink wine. He is the proprietor and winemaker. He comes to Walla Walla after 11 years in Scandinavia. There's a little Scandinavian connection here. Originally, he is from Northern California and has been involved with wine personally and professionally his entire life. I like this wine. You can actually find it at Gelson's if you have a Gelson's. I do believe K&L is also sells it, and you can find it lots of places. Price point $25, I think, roughly.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of fantastic, man. Just like this film, like it makes me want to go and watch the actual trilogy properly, just to see more of this kind of immersive filmmaking.
This is technically not part of the trilogy, though, but yeah.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It makes me want to go back and watch the trilogy.
Although I will say his earlier films, he does make a point of stating, like, he comes from Areni, and that's more the style of his previous films. And this was the one where he's like, let's just keep this one honest, quote unquote, emotionally, rather than mining it for the irony, mining it for the kind of comparing different emotional, like, because Worst Person in the World, like I said, like, she is a character, like more it's very European, but at the same time, so it's nowhere near as elevated or histrionic as like you'd get from an American movie about such a character, but at the same time, compared to this one, she is much more of a character rather than a real life person who just has some eccentricities, kind of a thing. So this is a very dialed down version of Trier, but it would be interesting for you to go back and see where the bridge from those to this, and see what you think.
I think I will check out the trilogy for sure. Sweet.
Yeah.
Good film.
All right, guys.
Go watch it.
All around. Sentimental Value. Right now, I believe in the States, it is streaming on Hulu. So you got to get a Hulu subscription to go get that, or rent it from, any specific online rental. You can probably rent it on YouTube, Apple iTunes, or Fandango, or so on and so forth. Very, very worth it. It's a wonderful movie. It should have won probably more than just Best International Feature Film, but I'm glad it at least won that. And all right. Dear listeners, as we sign off today, do you love us? I mean, we love you. Come on. Do you like this whole wine and movie pairing shtick? Well, go follow and subscribe. Make sure you're following and subscribing to us on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And, if you have 1 minute, leave us a rating and review 3-word review. You guys rock. Something like that.
There
You
you
know,
go.
I mean, that's exactly it.
You
I
are
love
gods
you.
among men. Oh, thanks. That's so
Exactly. But leave that rating or review and make sure you're followed or subscribed to us, because that really helps the algorithms show us to more people, and it helps them to discover us. No one's looking for a wine and movie pairing. No one thinks that's a thing. We are as far as I know, the first to really do it, certainly to do it this sincerely
sure.
and this ongoingly that I've ever seen in my life. So no one's looking for it, but the algorithm will show it to them the more we get ratings, reviews, and subscribers. So please, it really helps us out. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. Even better, go to Substack. I know it's a terrible platform, but go to Substack. Entertainmentstudios.com, where we will keep you all up to date on our upcoming live in-person wine and movie events, online events, as well as bonus wine and entertainment pairings, collabs with other wine writers, filmmakers, and wine peeps. And if you ask us nicely, we will even, if you ask us nicely on Substack, hit us up in the chat, slip into our DMs. It's okay. You love us. We love you. It's all good. It's all good. We will help you with your own wine and movie pairing. Just ask. We love doing this. We're super okay with doing it more. Say what it is you might want to watch. We'll be like, here's some wines you should go check out before you go watch that. If you're going to have like a movie party, a gathering, a get-together, say you just have a wine and you're like, what should I watch with this wine? This is what I'm opening tonight. Now, what am I going to watch? If you're open to that, you can do this either way, right? And many thanks this year to our sponsor, our official sponsor, Curated Wine Shop.
Yeah.
No idea where to begin finding a wine that pairs with your movie. That's okay. Besides me and Dallas, besides me and Dallas and Curated Wine Shop, literally no one does. So you can hit us up, or Curated accepts every entertainment-inspired challenge. They will curate the selection to match your palate. Just tell them what you're trying to pair with, your budget, your preferences, and they will show you the way. Curated is, of course, the boutique wine shop on La Brea Avenue, Mid-City, Los Angeles, founded and operated by peeps currently and previously part of the entertainment ecosystem. Johnny, Kelly, Allison, and Mia, they're all fantastic. Go meet them. They carry an ever-changing, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines, from the known and comforting to the completely unique. We're talking reds, whites, rosés, oranges, sparklings, dry wines, sweet wines, everything in between. There's no such thing, but everything in between. Go check them out if you're in the LA area. Johnny, by the way, is currently doing design for the Olympics. He's an ex-production designer, art director, and he's doing it for the Olympics right now on top of running the Bloody Wine Shop. Woo! So go, if you're an Olympics fan, go say hi and see if he can help you get some nice tickets or something. He probably can't, but you can see what happens. Buddy up to him. Support his wine shop. Maybe he'll support you. You never know. You can find them online at curated-wines.com. They do ship. That is curated-wines.com for Curated and vintertainmentstudios.com for us Vintertainment Bros. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back in 1 week with another wine and entertainment pairing for yo Vintertainment, but ciao for now.
Later, guys. Discussion, thoughts. Dave sneezing. You guys can't hear it, but it's hilarious to watch. He's got one finger up, shaking his head. He's clutching his pearls now. Yeah. I hope you guys watch this. It's hilarious.
I am coming down with something. So I can tell I can tell I'm sick as a dog. I have a podcast at 9 a.m. tomorrow too that I have to guest on. Oh God. It's gonna suck.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all I want to do is cough and blow my nose. And of course I'm trying to talk in like nice, clear and coherent sentences and blah 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 and have a conversation, and all I want to do is drink water and like hack. Anyway. Yes, thoughts. So nope, hold on. Fuck a duck, man. I was doing so good until this moment.
You were. I applaud you. You were.